Namaskaram. Hi, Michael. Hi, Ernesto. Today, we're going to discuss verse 3 of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu. So, before we start, I'm going to read the verse that says, what is the use of disputing? The world is real, an unreal appearance. The world is sentient. It is not. The world is happiness. It is not. Living the world and investigating oneself, one and two ceasing, that state in which I has perished is agreeable to all. So what does Bhagavan say that, explain that verse, Michael?
Right. The purpose of this verse is very similar to the purpose of the previous verse. Some people who read this superficially jump to the conclusion, Bhagavan says it doesn't matter whether we think the world is real or an unreal appearance. It doesn't matter whether we think the world is sentient or not, or whether the world is happiness or not. That is clearly not what Bhagavan is intending to say here. Bhagavan's teaching very clearly is that the world is unreal. It is jada, it's not sentient. And there's no happiness in the world at all. That is Bhagavan's teaching. But the purpose of this verse is to say that there's no use in disputing about this. That is, if we have understood that the world is unreal, we won't jump outwards to argue with others who say that the world is real. Those others are part of the world which is unreal. And even the person we take ourselves to be is also a part of that world. So why should, if the world is unreal, as Bhagavan says, we should be unconcerned about the world. That's why he says in the next sentence, leaving the world. Leaving the world means giving up attending to the world or being concerned about the world or leaving all thought about the world. How does he say? Ulahuviṭṭu, leaving the world. taṉṇaiyōrndu, knowing oneself. How do we know ourselves? Only by turning our attention within. In order to turn our attention within and know ourselves, we thereby have to cease knowing the world. And we know the world so long as we look away from ourselves towards other things. When we turn our attention back towards ourselves, we thereby turn our back, so to speak, on the world. So we ignore the world and we attend to ourselves alone. So he says, leaving the world, knowing oneself. Then the next clause, he says, ōrndu iraṇḍu taṉnaṭṟu. That literally means one and two ceasing. What he implies here is, here one stands for advaita, two stands for dvaita. And the implication is giving up all, putting an end to all disputes about duality, about one and two, about duality and non-duality. And who is it who engages in dispute about duality and non-duality? It is only this I, ego, but rises as a separate entity. So in the next clause, he says, nāṉaṭṟa, devoid of I, a-n-nilai, that state which is devoid of I. So when we turn within and know ourselves, ego is thereby eradicated. And in the absence of ego, there's no one to argue about whether the world is real or unreal. So all arguments come to an end when we turn within and know ourselves as we actually are, because knowing ourselves brings about the eradication of ego. So that state in which I, namely ego, has thereby perished is agreeable to all. So how to bring about the destruction of ego? Only by giving up all thought about the world and turning our attention within to know who am I. So why does Bhagavan teach us that the world is unreal? In order to stop remove our motivation for going after the world. So long as we take the world to be real, so long as we take the world to be a source of happiness, our mind will always be going after it. When we recognize that the world is wholly unreal and that it's devoid of happiness, it's just a jada. It's just as he described in the first verse, he describes it as nama uru chitram. It's a picture of names and forms. It's nothing more than a mental picture, a mental impression. Just like whatever world we perceive in a dream is just our own mental fabrication. It's just an impression in our mind, but it's not an impression that is caused by anything external to ourselves. Likewise, this world is just a mental impression, a mental picture. And as such, it is not real, it is not sentient, and it is not a source of happiness. There's no happiness in this world. But if we've understood this, if we really understood it, we will have no inclination to argue with others about it. Because the interest in arguing, in asserting our point of view as the correct point of view, will arise only if we take this world to be real. If in a dream we've understood it to be a dream, we don't then want to engage in argument with others. Other people in our dream may tell us, no, this isn't a dream. This is very real. This world is actually there. We see it, you see it, so it must be there. There's no point in arguing with those people, okay? Because all the people in the world are just part of the world. They're all a mental fabrication. Even the person we take ourselves to be is a mental fabrication. So it's out of egotism that we want to assert, but our point of view, whatever we believe is right. All disputes arise because people want to assert their own view. Let anyone have any view. What does it matter to us? Our aim is to forget about this world, to know ourselves by turning within, and thereby turn our back on all disputes about the world, and thereby bring about the dissolution of the I who has a taste for engaging in all such disputes. So, as I say, the principal purpose and conclusion of this verse is the same as the previous verse. What Bhagavan said in the previous verse, verse 2, is the meaning of the previous verse is each religion or each system of belief initially accepts three fundamentals. The three fundamentals are soul, world, and God. Contending only one fundamental appears as the three fundamentals, or three fundamentals are always three fundamentals, is possible only so long as ego exists. Therefore, ego perishing, standing in the state of oneself is best. That is, why should we rise as ego to engage in disputes about the nature of the world, soul, or God? The wise thing to do is to turn within, bring about the dissolution of ego, and thereby just remain as we actually are. That is best. So that's, as I say, it's very similar to the conclusion of this verse, namely, but leaving all thoughts about the world, investigating and knowing oneself. Or that's one thing I didn't mention here. taṉṇaiyōrndu. The verb or means both investigating and knowing. So we can take it as investigating oneself or as knowing oneself. But the implication in this context is investigating and thereby knowing ourselves. And when we know ourselves, we thereby bring we put an end to the rising of ego. And in the absence of ego, there's no scope for any disputes about what is real, what is unreal, Advaita, theism, atheism, all disputes of all kinds, all philosophical disputes, all religious disputes, all political disputes, all scientific disputes, all disputes exist only, as Bhagavan said in the previous verse, all disputes are possible only so long as ego exists. We put an end to ego. That is a state that is agreeable to all. And why does Bhagavan say it's agreeable to all? Because every day we all experience a state devoid of ego, namely sleep. And we all find sleep very pleasant. We wake up and say, oh, I slept very happily. I had a very peaceful sleep. Nobody objects to sleep. Nobody says, oh, I don't like sleep. I don't want to go to sleep. We all welcome sleep as it's a welcome respite from these states of mental activity, states of ego, namely waking and dream. So this is the main purpose of this verse is to emphasize that there's a reason why Bhagavan puts these two verses, 2 and 3, here near the beginning of this work, before going deep into the subject that Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu is dealing about, because Bhagavan is just giving us a warning. All that is taught here, the implication, what we have to infer from this is all that we are taught in Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu is for our own benefit. If we understand Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu correctly, we should turn our mind within and investigate who am I. This isn't just a nice philosophy, but we can go and engage in disputes or debates with others. Advaita is not for disputing or debating. Advaita is for experiencing. We can experience it. So long as we turn outwards, we are experiencing duality. If we want to experience non-duality, we shouldn't attend to anything other than ourselves. We should attend to ourselves alone. That is the aim of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I think that
you would like to ask on this?
I think that what you said about the implication is very important, no? Because I think as you understand more the teaching, and you deepen the practice, also you get the implications of this verse. Is not just a whole bunch of ideas.
Yes.
They have a clear implication and a clear practice in day to day. I mean, daily, in your daily life, no? Like if someone objects to what you believe, or something like this. Exactly.
We should be least concerned about what others believe, because those others are part of the world, which, if we are following Bhagavan's path, we believe that this world is unreal. So if the people of this world are unreal, their ideas are also unreal. Not only we should be unconcerned about the beliefs about other people and their beliefs, we should be unconcerned about this little person we take ourselves to be in our beliefs. We are not seeking to know who is this person. We are seeking to know who am I. Now we wrongly mistake ourselves to be this person, but we are investigating to find out what we actually are. What we actually are is just that fundamental awareness I am. So we can know ourselves only by turning our entire attention inwards, thereby leaving the world, leaving all thought, all concern about the world.
Yeah, it's true, because at first our view is very narrow. Like maybe we hear like, okay, the world is unreal, but we cannot fit it in the context of the teachings. We don't know what to do with that. I mean, okay, the world is unreal, so what? I still believe myself to be this body, and how do that fit in my practice, in my relationship with others, and everything?
If we see Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, Nāna, and Guru Vachaka, they all have one feature in common. In all of them, the early verses or early paragraphs are dealing with the world and the unreality of the world. Bhagavan emphasizes the unreality of the world in the 3rd and 4th paragraphs of Nāna. He talks about the world particularly from verse 4 onwards. For quite a number of verses, Bhagavan is talking about the world and the unreality of the world. Likewise, in Guru Vachaka, the first 80 to 100 verses are all about the unreality of the world. Why does Bhagavan attach so much importance to this? And why does he start with that? The reason is simple. What Bhagavan has identified as the root cause of all problems is ego. And ego has two defining characteristics. That is, when we rise as ego, we are always aware of ourselves as I am this body. And we are consequently aware of the world. And because we take this body to be ourself, what is actually real is only ourself. But when we take this body to be ourself, the body consequently seems to be real. And since the body is part of the whole world seems to be real. And because the world seems to be real, our mind is going out after it. So the awareness of the world is the very nature of ego. So in order to give up ego, we need to give up awareness of the world, as Bhagavan makes clear in the third and fourth paragraphs of nāṇaṭṛa. So it's for a very good reason that Bhagavan is teaching us that the world is unreal. He's not teaching us that the world is unreal so that we can go and engage in disputes with others. No, so that we should turn our mind within and find out who am I. That is the sole aim of Bhagavan's teachings. Everything else is just a distraction, just a diversion, unnecessary diversion.
Mm-hmm. And it's I guess in its beliefs like this, like the world is unreal, that our faith has to be deep in.
Yes.
We cannot prove to ourselves that that this is true, of course.
And faith is not just that is some people's idea of faith is you just blindly subscribe to a set of doctrines. Mm-hmm. Faith in Vedanta, it has a much deeper meaning. That is, the true faith is born of inner clarity. To the extent to which we turn our attention within, and we're turning our attention within to the original source of light, the light of awareness, the original, to awareness in its purest form, as that fundamental awareness I am, that is pure awareness. By attending to that, we are, so to speak, immersing ourselves, bathing in clarity. And so the more we turn our attention within, the more our mind is suffused or pervaded with clarity. And that clarity is what gives rise to the strong conviction, but the truth of the strong conviction. So we are strongly convinced that what Bhagavan teaches us is true. That conviction is a conviction born of inner clarity. So that's what faith means in Vedanta. It's not just blindly accepting a set of doctrines. In fact, in Vedanta we are taught to question everything, because the conviction can be strong only when we've considered all other possibilities and all arguments against what we're believing in. And if we're able to reject them, then at least it starts with getting conviction at the conceptual level. But then that conviction is a relatively superficial conviction. To get the real deeply rooted conviction, we need to turn our attention within. The more we turn our attention within, the clearer all these things will become to us.
Yes, because too many people confuse the Christian faith, no? Blind faith, with this confirmation that doesn't come from the scriptures of the Shastras.
Yes.
They come from the real clear of this light.
Yes.
That after when this light push go into the scriptures,
yes,
you know that this is real.
But it's not, that is, we talk about the Christian concept of faith, but that concept of faith is actually there not just in Christianity, it's there everywhere. In science, most scientists They take a huge amount. That is, no scientist can verify every scientific finding. So they accept it on faith. That is, they have a general faith in the body of science. They may question certain. Scientists specialize in a certain area of science. In their certain area of science, within certain parameters, they are questioning. But the very basis of science, they don't question. That is, science is based on a metaphysical assumption, but there is a world out there. But the world exists independent of my perception of it. In other words, the world is not a dream.
When any line of this physical, one line of the science go more far away from this basis, for example, the mechanic quantic, no? They begin the traditional scientists begin to say that is not science; it's other thing.
Yes. That is, the scientific method is a good method for researching about things other than ourselves, because they do question things, but they question only within certain fixed parameters. If you challenge a scientist and ask, how do you know this world is not a dream? Most scientists will not be even willing to entertain that idea. But say, oh no, it's so obvious. See, our science knows so much about the world. Yes, your science may know so much about the world, but is the world about which your science knows so much, is it a dream or is it not a dream? Does it exist independent of the knowing mind? That is, science is knowledge in the mind of a scientist.
Yes.
There can be no science without a scientist. And the scientist is the knowing element in the scientist is ego. So is that ego real? So this is far, far deeper. But why I mentioned about science, I'm just saying faith in the sense of a willingness to accept a certain set of doctrines or a certain set of theories or ideas is pervasive throughout, even in Advaita. The vast majority of Advaitins, for them, Advaita is more or less like a religion. They just take it on faith. They say, no, it's there. What is the source of, they say, what is the source of Vedantic knowledge? It is the Upanishad, the Brahma Sutra, the Bhagavad Gita. So they're accepting a certain set of texts. It's no better than the Christian who accepts the Bible. But Bhagavan doesn't base his teachings on any set of books. He says, the knowledge we are seeking, we cannot get in books. In the 16th paragraph of ṇāṇatāṛa, Bhagavan says, the aim of all the texts, implying all the Advaitic texts, is but liberation can be attained only by bringing about the dissolution of mind, the eradication of mind. When this truth is known, what is the use of going on reading the books without limit? What we are seeking to know is ourself. We cannot know ourself in books. We can know ourself only within ourself. So, whereas the more traditional Vedantins, they think the pramana, the means of knowledge, is the books, the Upanishads and the Brahma Sutra, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Bhashyas, the commentaries on these, and the further elucidation of those commentaries, sub-commentaries, and so on. Bhagavan doesn't say directly, but by implication, Bhagavan says, the only pramana, the only means of knowledge is to look within. Because you yourself are the knowledge. You yourself are that jnana. You cannot find jnana outside yourself. You can find jnana only by looking deep within. Because you yourself are that.
Yes, in the traditional, someday, 10 years ago, I was talking with Greg Good. I don't know if you know, in the line of Dennis Wade and on this Advaita vision of the line. He said, no, the shastras are basic to know yourself, no?
Yes.
And these people doesn't understand that the study of the sastras is to increase our conviction, our motivation to go within.
Yes. Yes, that is what the knowledge we can get from sastras is conceptual knowledge. Conceptual knowledge is not knowledge of ourselves. We can know about ourselves, but we cannot know ourselves from the sastra. So the benefit of any sastras, even this Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, you cannot know yourself from Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu. Bhagavan himself says you can. The purpose of Bhagavan's teachings of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, Nāna, Upadeshundya, Ammavidya, Arunachastutipancham, the purpose of all these texts is to point us in the right direction. How can you know yourself? Only by looking within. So the texts are useful in that they're pointing us in the right direction.
Yes.
So in that sense, they are indirectly a means to knowledge, but we have to follow the direction in which they're pointing us. The knowledge cannot be found in the books. If we follow if we understand what the books are pointing at, when the Upanishads say tatvamasi, what is the practical implication of that? Stop looking outside for that. You yourself are that. If you want to know that, you must know yourself. Look within, see yourself. That is the practical implication. But it's so long as we believe that the knowledge can come only from the scriptures, we'll go on and on studying the scriptures until we become old. And we'll still miss the point because we still haven't looked within, we still haven't understood the practical implication, the practical import of the text. That is why Bhagavan came to emphasize, but what is the practical implication of Vedanta?
So that's why Bhagavan here is like, it's, as you said, started with this in the first verses of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu. It's like preparing the soil for the reader to leave aside the world and all the things about that.
Yes, exactly,
and,
exactly.
Before that, okay, I'll tell you what you have to do with the nature of reality and so on.
Yes.
Yeah? So in that sense, it's true. All the sastras, all the scriptures are part of the world and they contend with each other and so on. But in between, among all the sastras are Bhagavan's teachings. So what makes, at first, what makes us aware that is very common in spirituality, when people say that I resonate with this teaching, no? Something made me, I don't know why. I guess it's at the conceptual level first, where you first heard about Bhagavan's teachings in India. I guess it was something clicked in your mind, did something at the conceptual level. It made sense for some reason.
Yes.
Yeah. It's by grace. By Bhagavan's grace, I guess that happened. Yeah. So it's like a prerequisite or a first step to go further.
Yes.
Today, one friend of us in this line of the rationalist, he said, I can prove that in the deep sleep there is the Atman, no? Because from my point of view, from the ego, what only I can prove is that there is an unconsciousness, no? And again, you can have faith in the Bhagavan's teachings, no?
Yes.
But at the point you don't go inside, no?
Yes.
To look yourself, very keenly, very profound. These explications, of Bhagavan, are in the table of I will see, no? I want to know that is true, but go inside and you can really prove that there is not a nothingness without consciousness when you are in the deep sleep.
Yes. That is what Bhagavan teaches us will become more and more clear to us the deeper we go within.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where the faith comes from. That's where the conviction comes from. Because we first read it, and yes, what Bhagavan says, it's very reasonable. It's it's logical. It is in conformity with our experience, and it has so much rational or logical appeal to it. But we can really understand it, really get a strong conviction only to the extent to which we go within. The more we go within, the more it becomes blindingly obvious that what Bhagavan teaches us is true. It's not that we are not learning any more information. It's just the clarity with which we are grasping what Bhagavan is talking about. That clarity increases.
Only the inevitable cause effect of having feeling ourselves to be a body and as an effect seeing a world,
yes,
in waking and dream, and then the disappearing our form and disappearing the world. That's even that thing that you usually say, how can we prove that the world is there when we are in deep sleep, right?
Yes.
So I mean, I'm still far from fully understanding totally by that thing in my mind, but I feel that you can go very deep in that conviction. If that conviction is really, really deep,
yes,
it can help you.
Oh, definitely.
Take time in your practice, yes. Because it's the proof.
Because when we are investigating ourselves in waking and dream, what is it we are investigating? We're investigating that I, but exists throughout all the three states.
Mm-hmm.
We are not just investigating the ego, we're investigating the real element of ego, the reality of ego. That is I, the fundamental awareness I am.
Yesterday, I was reading that it's very important to change the vision when you say, I'm going to the shop, or I want to have a shower, or in any cases that you use the word I, referring to the body, to the person.
Yes.
Try to be very, very alert to change the illusion that you are this I.
Yes.
And recuperate your real position as I am. No?
Yes.
In any use of I. No in this in the other that I think that you has listened too many times, no? The people that try to avoid the use of I and begin to speak very impersonal. This is the moment, as Tony Parsons and the friends. But this change very consciously the use of I to look that this I'm not this I am I amness. I what really are. No?
Yes. That is, we naturally refer to this body and mind as I, because that is our experience. But we should always hold on to the fact that what the word I actually refers to is not to this body or mind, but to that which is now mistaking itself to be this body and mind. That is ego. But even deeper than that, ego is just that mixed awareness. I am this body. I am this person. It's the I am in ego. In other words, the heart of ego, the essence of ego. Or Bhagavan says is recorded in Maharshi's Gospel, but Bhagavan described it as the essential chit aspect of ego. That essential chit aspect of ego is the pure I am.
I like very much how you said now, I am in ego.
Yes.
What is the real thing in ego, but no is the absolute ego. Is only the real thing.
Yes. That is, ego as ego is wholly unreal. But there is still an element of reality in ego. Ego as I am is real. Ego as I am so-and-so is unreal. Except ego as I am is not ego, it's just the pure I am.
Exactly. That's why this path is not very appealing, no, to people who want to do like intellectual acrobatics and finding out.
Bhagavan's teachings actually are ridiculously simple, so they won't appeal to people who are who like complicated things.
Yeah, it feels because there is not a lot to scratch. I mean, you can you go to a certain point, and okay, now either you put it into practice and go deeper, or jump to something else and continue looking for different explanations.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that. I think that's the part with that is harder, right? The practice. I mean, when we've read and we are okay, we have to practice now.
The nature of the mind is to feed on things other than itself. Variety is the spice of life. So variety is what keeps the mind going. It's always interested in this and this and this. What's the latest news? What new knowledge can I gain from this book or from that book? And so we're always going out seeking more and more experiences and knowledge and this and that. That is the nature of the mind. In this path, we are turning the mind in the opposite direction, away from all this multiplicity, back to the one reality. So the mind will naturally rebel against this because the mind's very survival depends on feeding on multiplicity. So when we try and hold on to that I am, which is the very foundation of ego, because that I am is one and ever unchanging, but there's we are going quite against the nature of ego, quite against the nature of mind. We're going in the opposite direction. But though we are going against the nature of ego, we are returning to the real nature of ourselves, which is just to be as we are.
I said there is not a lot to scratch, but actually there is a lot to scratch. The thing is, when we get to the point, is like when we run out of, okay, there's no more information. Okay, so now we got to the resistant point, where is the core of the resistance. So which is practice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Michael, here when in the verse where it says ceasing 1 and 2. That you said that's Advaita and Vaita, right?
Yes.
That refers to
all disputes about the implication is all disputes about Advaita and Dvaita, because the argument he's specifying, he's saying here, the world is real and unreal appearance. The world is sentient, it is not. This is the typical sort of argument that goes on between Advaitins and others. You know, according to Advaita, the world is unreal. It's an unreal appearance. The world is insentient, is jada, and it's not happiness. But others like to say, oh, no, the world is real. There are so many, the world consists of sentient beings and insentient beings. So but you can't say the world is completely jada. There are also sentient beings. And there's so much happiness to be obtained in this world. That is the view of the Dvaitins. The view of Advaita is that it's all unreal, an unreal appearance, insentient, and just misery. There's nothing more to it than that. So the disputes here are between Advaita and Dvaita. So Bhagavan says we need to give up all these disputes. We need to give up, then in the next clause he implies we need to give up the I that has a taste in such disputes. The I that rises to dispute about Advaita and Advaita.
So in that sense, traditional religions like Islam and Christianity, they could be considered Dvaita because they, I mean, there is a divine entity, is God,
yes,
there is a real world or material world, or yeah.
That is duality, various different types of duality. In Sankhya, for example, Sankhya, the basic duality is Purusha Prakriti, that is subject and object. So Prakriti includes not only the physical world, but also all the mental world, all our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions and everything. They're all Prakriti. And that which is aware of all this, that is Purusha. In other words, it is ego, but it's Purusha. But they wouldn't like it if we say like that, because they've got their own elaborate philosophy. But it's basically it's a dualistic system. Whereas in Vedanta, there are different interpretations of Vedanta. But when we talk about dualism in terms of Vedanta, the dualists are followers of Madhvacharya. There, the basic duality is between God and soul. They say God is something distinct. God is something different. So there it is a God soul duality, or God on one hand and soul and world on the other hand. That God is what is distinct from everything else. So there are different types of duality, but according to Advaita, all types of duality are unreal, because the truth is, as it is said in the Upanishads, ekam eva advitiyam, there is one only without a second. And tattvamasi, you are that. So when Bhagavan says disputes between 1 and 2, that means disputes between Advaita and all other systems of philosophy. Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana